Hi, this is the second devlog about the development of my game. In the first video I talked about the overall concept and some of the big picture tasks. But today I'll focus on the progress I've made over the last few months and the gameplay elements that are either already implemented or at least clear in their initial form. In the early stages of development, I mostly work on global systems, but as things progress, more attention shifts to the smaller mechanics, and eventually to filling out the world. In my opinion, this is the most exciting part of game development. Since I'm not only coding, but also creating the game's art, I can't help but want to make things look good right away. Those of you who are familiar with game development know that games are often built using placeholder assets or basic sprites in the early stages. Later, when everything's ready, the game gets passed to the artist to make it all look polished at once. I'm breaking that rule quite a bit by implementing many mechanics with final visuals right from the start, mostly because I find it more fun. Although it's not the smartest approach, it's risky because I might have to redo everything later, and that's time-consuming. But I feel confident that I already know how the game should look and how the mechanics should work. Lately, I've been focusing on the crafting system and how settlers interact with their environment. For example, I've added movement speed variations, depending on where the characters are. When passing through a door, a settler slows down, creating the illusion that they're taking time to open the door. And on good roads they move faster, which encourages the player to build proper pathways for their settlers. This will become even more important later on when additional settlements are added and the settlers will need to travel between them. However, logistics over long distances is a whole separate topic, with lots of interesting mechanics. Another small detail, which I really like, is something I borrowed from the game Eco. In that game, when a character walks around in the same area frequently, the grass starts to disappear, making the space feel more lived in. In my game, the soil will get replaced by trampled dirt, and this will affect gameplay, not just visuals. For example, if raids frequently come from a certain direction, monsters will eventually wear down a path, allowing them to reach you even faster. Or, if your settlers keep walking over cultivated plants, they'll trample them, so it's better for the player to consider building fences and garden paths. As I mentioned in the first video, the game will feature points of interest in the world, one of them being valuable resources that are extracted by a specially trained geologist. These resources can be of two types, either those found on the surface, which are collected with just a pickaxe, like stones, rocks, and various minerals, or those located underground, which require special structures like mines, wells, or something similar. Building such mines is already quite complex, as it requires a certain level of skill and various additional resources. However, mines can yield a large amount of resources, while surface stones are quickly depleted. I have already implemented this mechanic with a clay mine. I think clay will be widely used in my game for crafting certain items, possibly for walls, but primarily for making molds for casting ingots and early tools. This mine is fully manual. The geologist has to personally extract the clay until the resource is exhausted. Later, I will likely add autonomous or at least partially autonomous mines, but I still need to think that through. The crafting of regular items works similarly to most colony simulators. You simply choose the desired recipes at the appropriate workbench and create a production queue. I have tried to make the interaction interface as classic and intuitive as possible. And a few words about the priority system for tasks. I've added the ability to set priorities for specific buildings. Those who have played Oxygen Not Included will immediately understand the concept. Essentially, you first set the order of main tasks for the colonists, and then you can raise or lower the priority for specific buildings. For example, if you want the carpenter to chop wood first, you simply increase the priority at the relevant station. This system to me seems much more convenient than the more detailed priority settings, like in RimWorld, yet just as flexible. I have also designed the item storage system. In RimWorld, you can remember the convenient zone system with color-coded stockpiles, which I like, but it won't work well for an open-world game. Instead, it's better to encourage players to store items in chests rather than leaving them on the floor. However, I'm planning to include a temporary solution, marking the ground where items can be placed nearby. But still, dedicated storage buildings will be more effective, with different types like for wood, hay, food, and clothes. Since settlers have limited inventory space, proper chest placement is key to keeping the base organized. Additionally, I've started working on the initial production chains and early resources. Basic materials like straw, sticks, and stone will be used for the first constructions and items, which can be gathered without tools. Further progress in crafting will require research. I'm really excited about this mechanic, though it's not fully fleshed out yet. I'll share more in future videos. Early research will need paper or something similar, which I imagine can be crafted from specific plants I've designed. Their sap could have additional uses too, but I'm still deciding on the name for this plant. If you have any ideas, feel free to suggest them in the comments. My game is gradually expanding with new items and buildings. For example, I've added a magical rift which serves as the heart of the village. Our main settlement will be built around it. The rift is a source of magical resources and provides some protection within its radius. From a game design perspective, rifts will act as a kind of limiter for creating new bases, something necessary for an open-world game. I don't want to restrict players too much when it comes to choosing where to build additional villages, but there should be at least some limitation on the number of settlements. Most likely, this limitation will be tied to the level of the main rift. Rifts will also attract monsters, provoking raids on the village. The defense mechanics will be centered around protecting and controlling these rifts. That's all for now. See you in the next videos.